Hey guys, Vincent here from thecreativedojo.net. In today's video, I just wanted to share with you guys a cool little script that I created called the Dojo Toolkit script, which you can get for free at creativedojo.net. And essentially, it's a script that I created for myself that I think will be very useful for you guys. But before we begin, I want to thank our friends from Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Squarespace is the only one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional online website, store, portfolio. For a free trial and exclusive 20% off this month of September, head over to squarespace.com and use the promo code DOJO9 at checkout. So let's go and take a look at the InstaFilm script. Once you download it and install it, you can go to the After Effects window here and go to the Dojo Toolkit version 1. Now this is version 1, so there'll be a lot more upgrades and features as the script gets updated, but for now, these are the features in version 1. Now the Dojo Toolkit split into 3 tabs here: the Setups tab, the Expressions tab, and the Utilities tab here. So the Setups tab is essentially all the setups and all the pre-made rigs I've created that I use constantly, such as the letterboxing, the camera rig, the color grading, stuff like that. So these are just redundant things I create that I just want to have right here in the setups, and I think you guys will find it very useful as well. The second tab here is the Expressions tab, where these are some of the common expressions that I use all the time. So these are just quick, easy application buttons to apply your expressions to a parameter. And the last tab is my favorite here. It's called the Utilities tab, and essentially it has a whole bunch of utilities that I use all the time in my projects here. So let's go and take a look at some of these settings today in this video. The first thing I want to talk about here is the letterboxing button here, and essentially it creates a aspect ratio box or letterboxing very quick and very easily. So some of these settings may look very familiar from the InstaFilm script. That is because now the InstaFilm script is incorporated into this script here, the Dojo Toolkit script. So you only need the Dojo Toolkit script for this. And before we had 3 separate buttons for letterboxing. We had the 1080p, the 720p, and so on and so forth. But now we just have a unified letterboxing button, which is very, very easy. It scales down to the exact size of your composition. Everything's consistent and even. And so let's go ahead and take a look at this right now. I have this comp here. Now, one quick thing, because this is a ScriptUI and I built this as a panel, you can actually dock this panel wherever you want natively within After Effects. So you can pretty much dock it anywhere you want within After Effects as you would with a normal panel here. So just grab the side here and just dock it pretty much wherever you want. So I'll just dock it right here, and I'll just make some room here, and we can just see our script here on the side. So it's very quick and easy to access. And it should boot up whenever you boot up After Effects as well. So this is the Dojo Toolkit here. So let's go and take a look at the letterboxing button here. If you click it, it automatically creates a letterboxing, very fast, very easy, one click. You also have a few controls here. Well, actually you only have one in this particular case. You have the aspect ratio, which is set to the 2.4 letterboxing aspect here. So this is very cool, very handy, pretty simple, and we have controls now. So let's go and delete that. The second feature here is something that I want to talk about in a separate tutorial altogether, but it is the camera rig, and essentially just build the camera rig, and I'll explain more on this in another separate tutorial here. But essentially it creates a camera dolly here to control your dolly moves, the camera controller, and notice how everything has slider controls and expression controls to control the camera using the effects controls here. It also creates some other nulls that are shied by default here, like the heading, pitch, and bank. And I'll explain those more in a separate tutorial. But just keep in note that the shy switch is turned on for these layers, as well as the shy switch for the composition here. So it creates the camera rig, easy to control, and get some pretty nice camera moves easily within After Effects without any weird interpolation, stuff like that. So that's the camera rig here. The color grading grain pretty much do the exact same thing as the InstaFilm script here. Essentially, it just creates a color grade adjustment layer with some effects applied to it, as well as the grain preset here that I have right here. So just adds a quick grain to get rid of banding and stuff like that. So very, very simple here. Let's go ahead and delete these cameras. So that's pretty cool. And again, there'll be more features as the script gets updated as time goes forward. The second tab here is Expressions, and for these to work, you need to select a particular parameter here. So for an example, I have this ball here, and if you just click on the wiggle here, it applies the wiggle expression. But as you can see, it says please select a parameter or property to apply the expression here. So we need to select a property. So we need to maybe apply it to the position, or apply it to the opacity, or the rotation, So let's go ahead and apply it to the position here. Click on the position, make sure that's selected and highlighted, and select the wiggle expression, and that will apply the expression to the position parameter. And then you can see that we have our ball just wiggling around. And if I do a quick RAM preview, you can see that our ball is just kind of wiggling around. And as you can see, again, we also have expression controls, so we can control the frequency, which is, how frequent does it wiggle every second per second. We also have the amplitude, which is like the amount that it actually wiggles here. So very handy to have these expression controllers here in the effects controls to control the parameters quickly. So this is pretty cool. So we can delete those. We can actually undo it, undo everything. We also have the time, which you can apply to opacity or single properties here. So like opacity, we only have one parameter here. So we can apply times to it. Remember, you have to select the property for it to apply. And let's go ahead and take a look at the bounce one. The bounce one is my favorite one here, and essentially it is kind of like messing with the velocity and just kind of making things look a little bit more organic and natural here. So the best way to explain it is just to animate this little ball here. So I'm going to animate the ball. I'll go to the beginning, hit a keyframe for the position. It will start off at the left side a little bit, and then we will set a keyframe. We will move maybe like 3/4 of a second, and we'll just push this ball to the right, and then adjust our work area space. We do a quick RAM preview. You can see that things are very, very linear. We have the ball starting at one side, and it just kind of moves over to the other side. It doesn't look very natural. It doesn't look like a ball at all. And in motion graphics, it's very, very important to play around with these kind of parameters to make it seem organic, more lively, as well as more natural. So you want to incorporate the kind of physics in there. And you can do that by going to the graph editor and modifying those, but you can also apply this cool little bounce expression here. So select the position parameter and go ahead and select bounce. And let's go and take a look at this now. And as you can see, we have this kind of jiggling bouncing effect, and it kind of gives it that nice bounce. And this doesn't apply just to position, it can apply to pretty much any parameter that you can keyframe and add expressions to. And this is very, very, very cool because it gives you a more lively motion, more organic, more natural, and it just looks more appealing to the eye. And this is really, really handy for motion graphics if you're doing kind of animated stuff. So let me show you another example here. Now again, you could do this using keyframes and all that stuff, but it's a lot easier just to apply an expression. And as you can see, we have the controls once again, and it'll make it a lot easier here. So for the amplitude is the amount at which it bounces, the frequency, how often does it bounce, as well as the decay, which is pretty much the death rate of the effect. So how long does it take for it to kind of just settle down into place here. So you have all these parameters here to change up. It's a lot easier than the graph editor and the keyframes. And you can also easy these keyframes and adjust to compensate and such like that. So it's pretty cool. We can do the same thing for scale here. So we can go to the scale parameter or property, select the scale parameter, and we'll start at 0, and then we'll move forward, and we'll set the scale to, let's say, 55%. So naturally, this animation would be pretty linear and pretty plain. If we select the scale parameter, select the bounce expression here, it's going to apply the bounce expression to this animation here. So we do a quick RAM preview. And as you can see, we kind of get that kind of bubblegum bubble effect here. So it's very, very cool, very lively, and it just looks a lot better overall than just the linear keyframes. And it was very, very quick to set up using the bounce expression. So again, this is one of my favorite little expressions to use on a lot of things here. So pretty cool. And the last button here is the Autofade button. And it's a very, very handy script if you're using and creating slideshows or something like that. So now this little expression only works on the opacity. So if I just go ahead and uninstall my layers here, I have a few controllers here. If I go ahead and go to the element layer that I have, which is the ball here, and select the Autofade expression. Now notice how I didn't select a property. You can just select a layer because it only applies to opacity. So you don't need to select a property here. And by default, we have a fade in time of 24, which is in frames, by the way. So if we just kind of scrub through this, you can see that it starts at 0 opacity here, and it fades in 1 second. And then if you go to the end here, you can see that right before 1 second before it ends, it starts to fade off. And this is all triggered by the in and out points of a layer. So if I just trim this layer over here and trim this layer over here, everything's going to sync up accordingly. We have 0 at the beginning, move forward a second, and it kind of fades off. And as you can see, we have some errors just because it's too short here. But a second fade in, and then a second fade off, regardless of where your layers are. So you don't have to worry about keyframes, you don't have to worry about anything. It fades in and it fades out, and the duration is defined by the transition time here in the effects control. So this is very cool. You can also add markers. So let's say you want things to be faded in right here. We'll add a marker by hitting the asterisk key in the number pad, and then we want it to start fading out right here. So we'll add a marker over here, and then as you can see, it'll start fading in. And then once it hits the marker, the first marker here, it's going to be set to 100 opacity. It's going to stay that way until this marker here, and then it's going to fade off. So this is just a really handy way to adjust the opacity here. So instead of worrying about 4 keyframes, you only have to worry about 2 markers here, or set the in and out points. So fade in at this marker, and then begin to fade out at this marker. So it's just a very handy little expression that I borrowed from Harry Frank. So thanks to him for sharing that expression with us. So before I go and explain the last tab, the Utilities tab, let's go ahead and take one quick look at our sponsors over at Squarespace. If you've ever wanted to build a professional looking website for your business, set up an online portfolio or store, Squarespace is the place to be. They make it extremely easy and quick to set up an online presence, allowing you to pick from over 20 highly customizable and professional design templates. With their click and drag visual interface, adding content is extremely fast and efficient, allowing you to focus more on the content that you love instead of worrying about the technical stuff. They have awesome 24/7 support, and starting at just $8 a month, you can get a free domain if you sign up for a year. You can start your free trial of Squarespace by going to squarespace.com. No credit card required. Now, when you do decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure you use the offer code DOJO9, again, exclusive 20% off for this month of September. Squarespace, everything you need to create an exceptional website. So back to the tutorial, let's go and take a look at the last tab of the Dojo Toolkit. And this is my favorite tab of all. And these are just all the tools and handy little utilities to help you in your project. So here is my favorite feature of this tab here, the save screenshot. And essentially you can take a screenshot of your composition here. So if I press the take screenshot button, it's going to bring up the Explorer Finder window where you can choose where to save your screenshot. So I'm going to save it into this folder right here. And once you click OK, it's going to save the screenshot to that folder. And as you see here in the folder, we have our screenshot here, which is the expression, which is the composition name, and then the frame number, which is 131. So this is a pretty cool way just to quickly save out your composition. I know for me, sometimes it's kind of painful to export it, go through the export process and stuff like that. So this is just a quick and easy way just to hit take screenshot. It's going to save it as a PNG. Everything's there. You don't need to mess with the the settings and all that stuff, or go to the render queue and all that stuff. So this is a pretty cool, handy way. You can also change the destination folder if you decide to change the destination folder to someplace else after taking a screenshot. It's also important to note that it saves at the resolution of your composition here. So this comp is set to half resolution, so it's going to save as half the resolution. If you set it to full res, it's going to export at the full resolution as defined in your composition settings. So just note that this controls the resolution of your files as it does in After Effects. So lastly, we have the new project and the clean project, and essentially it just creates folder structures. So for example, I have no folder structures here, but if I was doing a larger project, I would need to set up a folder structure for easy organization. So I would just select the setup folder structure, and that will create an assets folder with our audio folders, comps folders, images, and videos. So you can just organize your composition that way. I find that's a little bit faster just to generate all this stuff all at once, because most of the time you will need to do it anyways. I also have a separate button for VideoHive author, so you can just select this button here, and it's going to create pretty much the same thing as the setup folder structure, except more inclined towards VideoHive and their customers here. So all this stuff here, so that's pretty cool. And then finally we have the clean project, which I will be adding more later, but this is the remove unused footage, and essentially when you press it, it's going to go through your whole project list here and pretty much remove all the assets that you don't use, like your audio files that you haven't used yet, or images or anything like that. So it just removes unused stuff in your project. Very quick and easy way to just clean it up with a click of a button. So essentially, this is the Dojo Toolkit version 1. Again, more features will be added as it gets updated. You can get your copy over at creativedojo.net, absolutely free. Check it out. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. If you guys have any feature requests or any bugs, feel free to email me or post it down below in the comments. I'd love to hear suggestions on way to improve it and some new features to add to it. So once again, guys, my name is Vincent Wynn from the creativedojo.net, and I'll see you guys next time.